We are looking at the end of a financial system that has overexpended its existence, its tether.
Today is January 15th, 2026. Silver is hovering at around 90, give or take. Is it too late?
It's barely begun. The way that they can track everything is the digitization of money. You lose privacy generally with digitization. You should understand that. If I hold a bar of silver and it's been bought anonymously on my behalf, no one will know unless I choose to show. Hence why I've been saying to people, you need to think jurisdictionally different. That doesn't mean you escape 100% of the problems. The earthquake's still coming and it's going to have an impact, but you're just not zone one.
There are places there that you feel are more tremor zone as opposed to dead on the center of the earthquake. We're at dusk and it's going to get very, very dark soon, I believe. All right, today I welcome back Francis Hunt, aka the Market Sniper. Francis is a financial expert, and as his last name suggests, he is a hunter, but not of the traditional sense. Francis is a financial hunter who has developed a sophisticated proprietary methodology for identifying tremendous opportunities in markets where pent-up pressure is seeking release. He calls this method the HVF method, short for Hunt Volatility Funnel. And this allows him to find hidden opportunity with asymmetric upside for him and his clients that most other people miss. So Francis, welcome back to the podcast.
Glad to be with you. Thank you for that nice intro.
Thanks. I am very excited to talk to you. There's so much going on right now in the financial markets. The hottest issue right now is silver. I'd love your take on that. And maybe more importantly, for those that are still kind of getting caught up to what's actually happening right now, can you please explain why silver, but just precious metals in general, are not your traditional investments? This is not like a stock or a crypto that's just seeing some really nice upside right now. There's a more fundamental thing going on. So I'd love to have you explain your perspective on that.
Yes, it's a very good question. It is different. It's a different market, and its implications are pointing to a far more serious and deeper malaise. Sometimes I share a particular chart, and I may take the opportunity to share it here and talk you over it. But overall, we are looking at the end of a financial system that has overexpended its existence, its tether, if you can excuse the phrase. We have been in an environment where debt and fiat has been on an ongoing basis proliferated. This one, it was interesting. Jay Powell was responding to a Department of Justice. So let's bring it. I'm imagining you have quite a large US audience. And I thought I'd reference that. And he was saying how he's going to continue to remain steadfastly committed to providing, the dual mandate of keeping inflation down and employment, and the Fed's role in securing stability for the nation. And I just thought that was kind of an interesting take. So I thought I'd just show you this chart. This is the Dow Jones, which is an index that's existed for a very long period. And it's divided by gold, which is a true basis, and I'm going to argue a true unit of account, not a fiat, for which you should measure your wealth by. You should divide assets by to see if it's worth investing in them, etc. It's the benchmark of capital preservation especially in fiat, debt, and debasement times. And this is my argument that will be part of this answer I'm giving you, is that we are right there. These blue lines are sort of illustrating the pre-Fed stability between the Dow Jones and a gold unit of standard. It was JP Morgan that actually said, gold is money and everything else is currency. And the Fed was created here shortly after the Titanic sunk, and then you had move up, and then you went violently up, and we went into the roaring 20s. If you remember the film Great Gatsby, and the sort of the vibe before, the party vibe, and then after, eventually with the event, the grim event in the pool. Then you had the crash, and you ended up in the 33 recession. Depression, my apologies, let me restate, depression. This was a depression, and it was acknowledged as a depression. And then we had a major inflation phase that took us, by the way, this was at 18 ounces you needed of gold at this juncture, this high, to secure you 1 unit basket of the Dow Jones index. You then ended up at about 1.9 here on the down leg. These are valuations, relative valuations of real money to the stock market and the Wall Street vibe, the go-go vibe. How deep in go-go land are you, and how deep in corrective land are you? That's the question I'm seeking to aim to answer. Over here, you're at around 28, and that was the 60s. And then, in fact, of course, 71 occurred. We went into the Vietnam War. More munitions were dropped than in all of World War II. We also had flamethrowers and, Agent Orange and napalm and various other not so cool things. Then we spilt really hard during the stagflationary era. We had a half-time bounce, and then we smashed down here. This is actually 0.99. 1 ounce of gold would have bought you a tiny bit more than a full basket of Dow Jones index. Up top, you were 28. Just think about that multiple there between the low and the high. 28 times, more than 28 times. Let's call it 28 times. Settle for that. By the way, you went up they then raised rates, Volcker raised rates, and virtually set about rebasing debt because too much was spent. And what did that mean? A very stagnatory environment, and dollar and debt devalue. They're the same thing, by the way. Debt is fiat that's just postponed and has a rental agreement attached to it. That's all. The usury extraction, and the cost of that usury, or usury, as some people say, extraction, is the interest rates of the time. And Volcker pushed them up and killed borrowing and killed the value of debt. And that set up a beautiful financialization of everything, mega surge that took us to 44.5. 44.5 gold ounces of real money were required to secure you here 1 basket of the Dow Jones. Now, in case you want the big answer at the end, I'm expecting us to go 0.66, maybe less. So less than 1, possibly 0.5, possibly 0.25 in an overreaction to the downside. We also had a half-time bounce. Obviously, as you get further apart, you'll notice I've drawn a megaphone broadening structure essentially here. We'll come back to that point. But as you're expanding, you're going to have a bigger half-time event. This was 2011, pretty dull years after the subprime crash. 09 was probably the hardest, but there was a lot of QE starting to come out to try do various things. And it's only a little bit later that they managed to get a little revitalization, small pump over here, and we are now dropping back down brutally. And I imagine we're going to break the splitter, which is the midpoint of my megaphone, and we're going to end up at some point quite quickly, because you'll note how fast we came down here and how fast these things happen. The downsides are brutal. You take the escalator up, you take the elevator down. It's not a lot of time. There's a big old fall. That's going to feel like a free fall, I can tell you. And we're in that. We've had our halftime rally, and we're in that free fall to the downside. So what does that mean in terms of asset allocation? Well, there's a couple of things I feel this chart deeply illustrates. First, the Fed has done anything but deliver stability. They've delivered pump and dump liquidity-based cycles, which they've utilized to exploit for their own self-enrichment and the impoverishment of the rest of the non-speculator, non-investment classes. So first of all, they have worked against you, not for you. And any claims to be serving you is a Trojan agent-like sales job of grand proportions. But let's leave the moralizing about end the Fed and all of that. I'm sure many of you are already on the bus with that one. So we're expecting a massive further capitulation to the downside here. What that means is the preservation unit of account is gold, and gold is going to outperform. In fact, what it is doing is not outperforming. It is actually, and I'll go a nice fat line here now, because I'm going to overlay this draw so you can forget about the chart for a minute and just watch the sketch. Gold is essentially a fat line that holds its level. And at the same time, you have fiat and debt that is in a debasement cycle. So they've been losing value, losing value, losing value, losing value, losing value, losing value. And we are in what I call the Ernest Hemingway part of the curve. Slowly at first, and then suddenly very fast. And at the same time, when you measure, this is fiat and debt buying power and its desirability. And it's over proliferated. There's no scarcity associated with it. It's been squandered and spent. And as a result, it's debasing immensely. The interest on that is causing a further acceleration. So it's a doom loop in that debasement because more money needs to be printed to meet payments. The US are not anywhere close to balancing its books. Basically, I think 52% of the total expenditure is covered by revenue. That was a while ago, that number. I wouldn't like to say it's got any better. I would imagine broadly only worse. So what tends to happen is real value preservation tends to look like the exact corollary. It tends to look like this. And when you add the light blue line together with the dark blue line, you actually get a flat line, which is the original holding your value in real terms. So the problem is our unit of account. You know, accounting, when you do bookkeeping and you know, how many dollars did you spend? What income did you get, etc. The unit of account is $1. And I'm saying to you, that's no longer a stable unit of account. It's actually this dark blue line in a collapsing. And you should actually measure everything in terms of gold ounces, the correct unit of account, which will give you something stable that is fully adjusted for the true debasement and inflation. But actually, because you're measuring it in debasing currency, you're getting that. So if we go and look at a long-term gold chart without a log scale, let's do that as well while I've got you here. We can have a wee peek at that one. Let's get rid of that and get a browser up and show you the gold chart. So now I've kind of brought in silver here. I'm using candlesticks chart, but you can see how that's performed. Let's do gold because it's been around longer and we've got a better chart for it. And it is the primary, the king of basements. And if I take the log scaling off, I hadn't done that with the silver chart. And by the way, why has some of these gone real fat on you? That's volume. And volume is a leading indicator. I'm a chartist. I'm a macro chartist before anything else. I can talk fundamentally about most things fairly competently, but I start as a chartist. And this is illustrating engagement. Volume is how many people are getting involved. But if you just forget, if I just took that away, the candlesticks and the fact that I've put on and put normal candles, that might help everyone get a better feel for the trajectory. We can, of course, just do a line, which many people understand. That's how that line looks. Basically, that light blue line, that parabola I was talking about, that's it right there. And what is it telling you? It's telling you your dollar is doing the exact opposite. And if I draw it again for you, like that. And the summation is a straight line that runs through there. I didn't draw it very symmetrically freehand, but I think you get what I'm saying. So why is it different was your question, and I've gone long form on you, but I really like people to understand this fully and properly, is the entire system had a basis of a unit of account and is based on fiat and debt, which is delayed fiat, basically with a rental agreement and an interest rate, which determines that rental agreement. And it's collapsing. And it's in the accelerating phase of collapse. You don't smash the thermometer in the sauna because it tells you 90 degrees. The heat is on. The heat is on, and it's on high, and it's getting hot, and people are sweating. It's not the thermometer that is making you angry. It's the fact that you're in that situation and it's hot that's making you angry. The thermometer is just telling you the truth. Gold is the truth. It is, as someone who's always sought the truth in how systems work and what's the hard facts of it, this is your truth metal, and it is your truth money, and it is your truth indicator for the degree of collapse and loss of trust. Now, I would say the fiat was maybe built up, not necessarily in the same curve. It might have been more regular, but the trust, the sudden loss of trust that has come into the system has seen, because they were successfully suppressing gold and silver's performance. It's why you get this hollowed out factor. The trust has suddenly flooded. And when everybody hears fire in the cinema and starts rushing for the door, you get a jam. And that's basically where we are. So you're having catch up for what was initially at first quite a linear increase in debt, but that kept going ever more parabolic with every basic crisis. And you had a financialization era where everybody borrowed, everybody loaned, you didn't have to worry about money. Hey, it's a free float system, the petrodollar with Kissinger and all of that. Keep it going, excessive proliferation of debt, all of these items. And now you're suddenly you've gone too far and it's over, and everybody's now realized it and started to move. And what's happening is the gold price, and what is a twin turbo to gold single turbo. Gold is benefiting from the fiat and debt debasement, and central bankers recognizing that. Silver is actually got in a second turbocharger too. It's already big engine and immense HP that sees it even outperform gold. And that is, it's got real consumption, and it's been overconsumed to production for an extended period. And all the surpluses that were above ground were used to buffer that. And we've run out of time on that now. So the inherent inventory aspect is gone. And further to that, because we had a lengthy inventory, they were able to suppress the market disproportionately. And the relationship between gold and silver's relative pricing got out of whack. You went as high as 126 on the gold-silver ratio. It's worth also bringing up that chart as well, the gold-silver ratio. And what's eventually happening now is physical demand has changed everything. And if you don't have it, you don't own it, and it's going to cause you all forms of problems for not having it. And this is where we're going. So I'll go back to candles for that. And
while you're pulling that up, can I just sort of
come back at me?
Can I bottom line this in layman's terms? Because my audience is not as we don't go quite as in depth in the finances. This is super helpful to see the data, especially coming from you as a chartist. But I want to make sure that we're not losing people in the technicality of it all. In short, as I understand it, you have the hard metal itself, the raw, the real metal, the silver coins, the silver bullion. And then on top of that, you have all these financial instruments, paper basically, that if the unit of account being the dollar is stable, you can trade the paper with reasonable expectation that your investment's not going to bottom out. But we're at a point now where the trust in the dollar, because of the tremendous spending, is just so out of whack, and people have lost trust in it, that the paper is no longer good enough. People want the actual asset. They want to be holding it. That's the rushing towards the door piece that you were talking about. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. The one point I'd say is that the people who've realized that latter part of mainly central banks, institutions, and a handful of retail people who understand sound money. Man in the streets is still happy to be paid in dollars and accepting it. He still has faith in a system, in a ship that's busy, already hauled and going down. The problem is you're the last to hear and you're the last to take action, and that's why you end up the bag holder. So I'll just add that distinction there to your summary.
Good deal. Let me ask you a quick question too, as we're moving forward. Today's January 15th, 2026. Silver is hovering at around 90, give or take. Is it too late? And if not, please share your perspective on why you think we're just getting started with this.
Yeah, I love that question. Are we too late? And when you show this chart like this, the tendency is to think you are too late. And, am I too, it's almost certainly you're too late. You're going to be buying the top, so to speak. So I'm going to do a few manipulations on this chart to bring a bit of context as to why it's barely begun. And that sounds outrageous when you're looking at that chart that I've just put in front of you. I recognize that. But I think once you finish hearing what I say, you might see it a little differently. So first of all, why does something go up in price? Well, if it's been suppressed for very lengthy period and a lot of additional money, I can't remember the exact amount, and don't have anyone quote me on this, but I think the last 5 years is about 60 to 80% of all money in circulation was issued in the last 5 years.
That's wild.
So, you don't know how much paper. People don't understand the consequences of the dilution. So if we take what is not an accurate number that grossly understates the true inflation and new money being proliferated, such as, for example, M2 money stock, Federal Reserve, SL, how much money has been added, and I divide the silver price by that. Now, the sad news in this is that the M2SL doesn't go back far enough. So you can see, by the way, that 2011 high, there's more data that goes all the way back to 80s, but the M2, it doesn't. You haven't even reached in adjusted by the bad understating statistics of your government, for which statistics is actually a propaganda tool for keeping it quiet and not letting the fullness of the situation escape, shows that even at 2011 highs, you were here and you haven't even made that. Now imagine when I go back to that silver chart, how that looks relative to the 1980 highs over the same time frame. Okay, now we've got the full chart. We don't have to guess near as much. By the way, it's a struggle. That's log scale. Let's take that off. Log scale. So you can see the 2011 high is up here. The 1980 high is up here. In adjusted for, underly so, in my opinion, for the reasons I've already given, that government statistics can't be trusted. They told you it was a robust economy and it wasn't a recession because you had a red hot labor market. And then you found out that Biden was hiring DEI consultants all over the place. They were all working for government, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you know where we stand when we talk about misinformation and muddying up the benchmark. So this has really just begun. And I would personally say, if you were doing it, you want to do it on shadow stats and it'll look even smaller. It'll look even lower. So this has really just begun. And this gets into the questions of the depth of what are the expectations for silver in terms of its performance. And rather than start with prices, I do have a geometric target generated that is a localized high, not the final high. I want to be very clear on this because we expect 4 digits of $333. You typically will have a pause. There might be some events. They might even bring out a law saying, people can't own it. You're obliged to sell it to the state. There'll be a pause for whatever reason, for some duration generally, geometrically. This comes from our technical method. But I actually think long run, you will end up through 4 digits. Why do I say that? Let's cover that again. So let's go back to that gold-silver ratio. In fact, I'm pretty sure we got one that goes a little further back. Let me just see if we can get a bit more history. I'm going to divide the two out by each other. So essentially, the gold-silver ratio illustrates how many silver ounces you need for every ounce of silver. That's your gold chart, and I'm going to divide it by the silver chart. That is the same as the gold-silver ratio. And we should get a bit more history. So it'd take us roughly to 2011. Again, I'm not quite sure. I think this damn broker keeps inserting itself that doesn't have the history. Sorry about that. It's my trading account, and it keeps wanting to stir everything back to my trading account. Okay, very good. One of them. So now we've got much more history. And I want to illustrate that the entire financialization of everything, including the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, where you would have had, this has all been a financialization experiment with the US as the hegemon. And the way it works is other people buy more of your stuff and you export dollars and debt, which is basically dollars. Just as I've already explained, fiat and debt are the same thing. You can't debase one without debasing the other. They'll take turns, but they are basically the same thing. And what is happening is people no longer want to take that in return for the silk goods, the battery cars, whatever the case, their market they're selling. And what's happening is they are not wanting to hold the treasuries, which are the debt instruments. They'd rather get rid of them. They don't see them as good assets and outlook, and they'd rather own the gold. So you're actually having a turbocharged run for gold on the basis that nobody wants the supposed reserve asset of a treasury bill, for which there's an abundance. And when you get that, That means there's a reluctance to buy the treasuries, which means long run, your interest rates go up. They will lose value and they will have to offer higher yields to attract investors. And in the meantime, the people that were buying treasuries see the solution as gold. So you get a double hit. You get the selling of treasuries or the non-buying, and you get the aggressive purchasing of gold, for which we've successfully, during the financialization of everything, reduced gold to being barely held. Hedge funds have between 1% and 2% on average. People in homes, in terms of assets, retail people, largely most are sleeping on this one entirely, apart from people like you and me, maybe, and others like us. And even institutions are underinvested, and it's suddenly going to be found, and it's going to rip, and it's going to run. And the currency acceleration component is the tipping point of the normal curve, where even your taxi driver or your dentist is saying to you, yeah, got rid of my dollars, bought some gold ounces, put them under the bed. I'm just keeping enough money in the business to pay the bills for everyone who's still receiving dollars. At that point, you know that you're in the middle of the bell curve of adoption, of understanding, dump the dollar. And it's not just the dollar, dump fiat generally, because other nations have synchronized themselves to the American system in a debt-based basis. So the euro, Canadian, Australia, all of the Western nations are actually the probably the worst in terms of this and the most indebted, which means asset valuations are going to crash. Most people, it's a polarizing event, are going to not be able to cope with the cost of living. And so it's going to be a chronic reduction in living standards in the Western nations that's going to cause riots, crime spikes, all sorts of martial law and social repercussions. That's a separate discussion of itself. So I won't go any further than that. But just to say, it's not a good time. Hence why I've been saying to people, you need to think jurisdictionally different. That doesn't mean you escape 100% of the problems of America, Canada, Europe, United Kingdom by going somewhere else non-Western. It just means the earthquake's still coming and it's going to have an impact, but you're just not zone 1. You might be zone 10. That means you get a tremor and you get a crack in your house rather than you end up in a sinkhole halfway in the core of the earth with your house falling on top of you. So it's the degree that matters. And it's going to be very devastating for all nations if the West disappears as a major consumer, which largely in a depression, they would be a greatly reduced consumer, and disposable wealth will be rare. And that's why billionaires have houses outside of America with snorkels and bunkers and everything else, because everyone gets to hate on the guys that made it. And they're going to weaponize the great unwashed and the serfs that we'll all be if we allow them to do this against those that have saved themselves. So the more people I turn to gold and silver as an investment, I am not only saving somebody, which I'm delighted to do, and I do for free, but I'm also making it one less rioter that would be angry for not being saved. And this is our grand game, getting enough people over to the Sound Money team. So let me hand back to you, and you drill down wherever you like.
So let's zoom out for just a second and explain to my audience your lens through which you look at all of this, because this, to me, in my opinion, really differentiates you from all the other financial people. You have a tremendous ability to understand the charts like you just demonstrated, but there's a more macro holistic viewpoint of what's happening sociologically and with politics, et cetera. Explain your three spheres and your lens of the convergence of those three spheres.
So our community is based off the models and the templates and well-developed thought patterns that I've created through my own life experience, my chosen avenues of study, and the focus of my mental capabilities in those spheres. So there's three circles, and they're overlapping circles. There is a sweet spot where you are living in all three. The top circle, for example, is the reset sniper, which understands and follows, reads the books around, lockstep, the Rockefeller agendas of 2030, et cetera, who the people that are controlling the planet are and what actually they want. And if you know, with the end in mind, great author Stephen Covey You all know him, 7 Effective Habits of Highly Effective People. He said, start with the end in mind. So I am straight away focused on the final destination, the people who are the steering committee of this agenda are intending on taking us. So I already have a clue of the end point. That's a great use on working out all the milestones in between. And as I've referenced, it's a surveillance grid with absence of privacy, very intrusive, totalitarian government, restricted freedoms, generally, globally, but particularly in the Western nations. And I'll explain a bit more why. There's other aspects of resetology that I can discuss. It's kind of a study in, as a conspiracy analyst, I'd prefer to say. To complete the joke, I suppose I should say my pronouns are I told you so. But anyway, the other 2 circles are the digital currency role, which is the crypto sniper. So that's the reset sniper, the crypto sniper. And that recognizes that without doubt, the way that they can track everything is the digitization of money, completing that full experiment, along with UBI, biometrics, social scores, etc., etc. So you lose privacy generally with digitization. You should understand that. That's my underlying thesis. If I hold a bar of silver and it's been bought anonymously on my behalf, no one will know unless I choose to show. If you hold a certain amount of a particular token or money that is mainly digital, you haven't drawn the cash out in a bank, the banks know, that means your IRS know, and that means anyone who's really thinks you're a bad man and wants to investigate you can probably get the power to know, and various other things. So digitalization it seems unavoidable, much like battery cars, even though the Razonda trial is quite questionable, because that's what the people want that are running and the steering committee. And it's kind of hard to fight against them. I'm all for it, by the way, but they own the media, they own the banking cartels. These are silently, violently, exceptionally rich people for which money isn't the object anymore, maintaining their power and making it absolute is. Then you have the market sniper, which is the third and probably the most important for wealth building. And that is based off HVF Method's view of how you should technically trade, invest to maximize your own wealth building, so that if you're to be a slave, at least be a rich one, and maybe buy some privileges back of freedom from your slavery and choose the best slave master. And if you understand legalese and various maritime laws, when you're born with a birth certificate, you are all assigned, and your tax revenues are part and parcel of your inherent value that they can extract against your efforts. And it's designed to keep you poor and keep you running on a treadmill till literally the best years of your life are gone. And then probably you'll have some intrusive medical event that could lead to you in 2020 or 19 falling over with some dreaded disease for which the pharmaceutical industrial complex could make a large sum of money whilst not really curing you. So those are quite a cynical approach, but the market sniper is about HVF method and maximization. We've had our community over the last 6 months. I've turned a deposit of 70,000. I showed it on my own YouTube channel with the receipts. The deposit amount, we made over $7.5 million on this one account that I chose to say from a 70 grand deposit, trading the Swiss franc, Japanese yen with HVF method, trading cocoa, then getting into gold when we said it would run, gold going up and running, then the silver part, which came a little later, but it's come a lot harder and longer since, all the way through. So utilizing that methodology, which is a totally transferable skill, by the way. I'm not particularly the best operator even of my own method. You can design a car, but not be the fastest driver on a track. It's a skill I've been transferring, and now we've got young Americans that had 25,000, they've turned it into $250,000, others with bigger amounts that have done 10, 12, 15x, others with smaller amounts that have just been happy to take 5 grand to, 110 grand. So that's what we've been doing for our community with regards to moving forward. And I personally suggest that it's probably the safest thing you can do. And the most recent two has been silver and Monero, which is a crypto. And you would think, wow, but you said digital bad. No, digital's happening. And there will be big moves in digital. And I'm dispassionately going to maximize anything that builds wealth without believing in it. I'm not marrying these things. I'm going on the ride. I'm hitchhiking. I'm not marrying the driver of the car. She may be a pretty lady. She may not. I'm just getting from A to B on it. So I'm in a better place further on. And the irony of Monero and silver, for example, being recently just moon shooting everything that we've been in on a very good year in 25. Now, literally blowing up their accounts to the upside even further, starting barely in 2026. The interesting commonality, because at first sound, you would think there's nothing in common, is that they both are weapons of privacy. Again, I prefer the physical over anything else. But people getting out of banks and debt and fiat, getting into a metal they hold at home is a private item. You need to send a man with a gun, and he better have a big gun, and especially in America, and a lot of them, if you want to get that silver off that American owner of this bin. Very few people will know he has that bar unless he chooses to tell his friends that he has it, or how many he has and where they're hidden. This is your business. They don't get to track that. It doesn't have a chip in it, at least not yet, and it's anonymous. And the most credible crypto, and bear in mind what I've already said on digitization. I don't think there's anything that's foolproof when you're moving around using internets, and there's many points of failure in devices and many other things in terms of privacy. And the Monero strapline is the real Bitcoin. You may remember when crypto originally launched, they tried to sell it as liberty-seeking private tier product that, drug AK-47 selling guys on the internet and, cocaine sellers and various others. They kind of confused it with Pirate Bay, where people were utilizing crypto and purchasing it. And it was this libertarian freedom from governments and the Fed kind of guy. Now Bitcoin is yay BlackRock, yay Michael Saylor, and yay pump my bags with the ETF. And they have taken control over it. And it has come out since, and we've always called our suspicion on it, that the NSA was involved in 96 with how to make a mint. And the Bitcoin is essentially the extension of that project, and that Epstein and all other characters have created. And we tried to warn Bitcoin maximalists that they've been foiled by a controlled opposition that is actually an on-ramp into digitized money, where exactly where they want you. They don't want you going back to gold coins, and they don't want to be on a gold and silver standard. They want to keep cheating you. I just showed you the chart with the pump and dumps. The central banking cartel lives off of you and gets inordinately rich and wants to control you. You're a second tier citizen. So, but the interesting fact is that Monero it's probably the most credible privacy-based token, and you'll probably be safe from most people, your neighbors, and even some powerful people. I wouldn't say, I would guarantee you, I'm not a tech dev. I don't have that skill set, I'm afraid, to confirm that it's ultimately at all levels from all people, but it does a pretty solid job. Nobody will know, if you don't want them to know, who's the owner of a wallet that's just received 10 million. It would take quite a specialist to want to do that. So you'd have to be already under the view of some pretty powerful people for that to be opened up. So I think that theme that goes with the crash in the dollar is that wealth needs to be hidden and it needs to be preserved.
Let's talk about that. Where jurisdictionally, where do you see as a good place, or maybe a handful of places to maintain that as best as possible, the privacy and the mobility of your currency?
Good question. And there's a lot going on in that my brain just sparks in 7 different points when I hear the question.
I can relate.
Kind of how I think. But the one thing that is comes first to mind is the whole barn is being burdened down and is moving towards a greater degree of governmental control. What I mean by that is there's no one place in the world where 100% freedom is being maintained. The capture of the planet, or whatever it is, the surface that we call Earth, is complete. So there are varying degrees and varying styles that may be arbitraged to a degree. Kind of like when the CV-19 lockdowns happened, certain countries were more aggressive in certain ways, etc. But it became, under a World Health Organization diktat, pretty universal, across the planet. And we responded in slightly different ways by style and by culture, but there's that. So there is no, I can't sell you Narnia. It doesn't exist, where there's no bad people that want to know all your stuff. All governments have an inherent interest. What I can sell you is a totally legitimate confusion scheme of multiple residencies in less aggressive or less resourced nations who might like to be more aggressive but can't afford to be.
Which nations are you looking at for that?
Well, for example, Georgia and Eastern Europe. Very pleasant people, very homogeneous, great food. They're not doing the Ukraine. They don't like the idea of having half their sons minced up. So they're kind of walking the path. They're not falling foul of NATO. Go start a second front on Russia and all of this nonsense. Russians are some of their best clients, love their food, visit their country. So anyway, you don't have to live there. You don't have to be sitting there if you think a bomb's about to fall. But have residency there, and you can do that within 2 weeks of attending there. And we have agents who've done that for all, very reliable and trustworthy ones, by the way, who do all my work for me personally, that are looking after our community members. Now, what does that get you?
Sorry to interrupt you. Is that part of your offering in the Reset Sniper under that umbrella, so to speak? You provide that for your clients?
Yes, it is one of our offerings. Yes.
Okay.
It is not. So we have a trading community and people join that. Obviously, there's agents that need to be paid if you elect to do that. So there's separate pricing for achieving those things. But we facilitate that and we make the introductions and we screen and make sure you have all your stuff ready so that you can go over and do that. We explain where you can stay, right down to hotels, how cheap the taxis are, what app you must have. So it's our game in that, but the experts are doing your paperwork and they are not me or my team. And you will meet them on ground there and they're lovely. They speak English, they speak Russian, they speak, some of them speak even more languages, but you'll get by very well on English and it's very well spoken there. It's actually the official language by all business levels. And why would you want to do that? Well, if I've just made a considerable sum being leveraged long Monero, I'm going to face a tax bill on capital gains. I don't want to face a tax bill on capital gains for protecting my money from the debasement forces that those same extractors created. Why do they get to punish me for maintaining my value and maybe outperforming it a little bit on account of their debasement game? So I don't think that's fair. There's a massive difference between legality and morality. I like the idea of morality, but you have to use legal mechanisms to attain your version of morality. And my version is I don't pay tax on capital gains when you're doing the debasement that causes those capital gains. Because that means you're taxing me a second time on already taxed income and you're taxing me here. Well, anyway, we can talk all about tax. But anyway, so crypto, stocks, gold, silver, no capital gains. That's a heck of a thing. Mm-hmm. And let me say, in terms of the West and the debasement game that they are planning, they will 100% be looking to take you into the weeds with potential extraction. And let me just add an additional point. We talk about tax scavenge mode. We have I've worn all of these things. I'm a futurist at heart as well. I live in the moment, but I see what the signs are telling me. The crop of tomorrow is in the seeds that you plant today. Mm-hmm. And I see the seeds they are planting and the bitter crop that they wish to harvest later. And I see the trajectory in terms of where it's going. And a lot of it, and why they're doing it, because I understand the Reset Sniper. Most financial advisors have no common understanding of legacy history like the Bolshevik Revolution, how the kulaks were actually farmers that were relatively wealthy. They could feed their own family and sold goods to the other people. And so they had income, and how they were made to be enemy number one for this basis. And open license was given for their farms to be burnt and to be hung. And that led further to starvation as well. So think of that for a nice genocidal plan of turning on your middle classes. So that was a history then. We are facing potentially a technological version of similar, of totalitarianism, reduction of freedom, absolute assertion of power, the right over life some people believe that they may have, and just refer to CV19 and how much they were aware of what they were doing and what it might have as repercussions to consider. If you think that's the only play in their playbook, I'm here to say, sorry, it gets worse.
Sadly. So Eastern Europe, what about South America, Africa? There are places there that you feel are more tremor zone as opposed to dead on central, center of the earthquake?
When we talk five flags, the five flags are essentially a policy of you can have a residency in a place, that's a document, and you can reside somewhere else. Okay. Where you choose to live is open to you. In my worldview, if I'm giving counsel to you and your audience, I would say, don't let it be a Western nation. They're going to have the hardest downdraft. And I'm afraid for the Americans, the hegemon nation falls off the highest ladder. You've exported the most debt and the most fiat, and no, you aren't the cleanest shirt in the laundry. Even against Japan, which everyone tells you is more indebted, when you add unfunded liabilities, Japan goes up from about 230% debt to GDP to about 330. America goes to around 550, 600. And that under accounts for Medicaid, welfare, and the fact that they can't afford to pay that. And that might mean more trimming of the pensioner classes and the boomer classes to come of intent. So it's a very dangerous environment where other people are making decisions on other people's potential mortality and lifespan. And I don't like that. So live somewhere. My priority is there's one of the 10 most best drives right behind me called Chapman's Peak. It's half the cost of living of the US and Panama for me. And it's great food. So I'm in Cape Town part of the year. But some people will say to you, South Africa, you're mad. All I ever hear is it's a rape capital of the world or a murder capital of the world. We have townships. We have areas where different communities exist, harder conditions. And yes, there's some thuggery that can go down in there. But there's also, complexes, white, different areas, white European areas, colored areas, black areas, mixed areas of equal success. It's all everywhere. And then real poor areas in shanty towns. And the stats come from the volume. It's a bit like, having one foot in a bucket of coals and having another foot in ice. Statistics can be confusing. Generally, on average, you're fine. But in actual fact, one foot's been frozen off and the other one's been singed off. So just be careful on that. Come and see for yourself. It's a great style of life. And at the same time, I don't care about the government. They're all corrupt. They're all useless. They're all working against me. I recognize that globally, actually. And I don't want to be holden by the South African government at all. So I don't stay more than a certain period and I stay elsewhere. So I am almost what I'd call a light degree nomad who has very specific chosen residencies that best benefits himself because he sees the governments of the world and their debasement game as criminal and immoral, but chooses to use their laws against them so that I don't get arrested for tax evasion.
So as you are looking at moving and staying potentially on the move jurisdictionally with different countries, how are you managing your finances with that? And do you have some specific recommendations for somebody who may have some wealth that's looking to diversify their jurisdictions? Are there certain dealers that you work with or certain banks even, et cetera? So love your take on that.
Yes. And in fact, not everything is expensive either. There's some pretty simple things. Inside our YouTube, there's a Wise link, which is Wise Bank, and they are very good as an internet bank. They're not a branch bank, but their apps are exceptional and very useful. And I also have a Bullion Vault link, because one of the questions, somebody watching this, we get a lot of bullion guys that have already been stacking silver and gold for a lengthy period. And let's say stateside, they say, listen, I don't like the trajectory that things are going. Or let's say the Canadians, we've got a lot of Canadians phoning up. They're very reset aware, the Canadians, after Trudeau.
Yep.
They've really had their own. We get a lot of calls from Australians, Canadians, and US guys, but the Canadians are really sick and tired of their government's initiatives, probably as a percentage even more than the US. There's still some sleepers in America, because things aren't maybe quite so bad on some levels. And they just want out and they want to leave. And they've been stacking for a while. So they've had the genie that sound money matters. So they're that kind of person that's aware that things are not going in well. I'd call them thinkers and non-sleepers, but they've got a stack of gold or silver and they want to travel with it. And I just say, don't even start doing that. It's going to be a nightmare. Insurance, the cost, everything. And what's happening is as people are awakening to gold and silver, you can clearly get spots. You might even get a small bit over spot, depending how good a salesman you are, because some internet sites can't even give you that. The silver products are out of stock. And so the price isn't even a real price because you can't get at that price. So it's no good me saying I'll sell you my Porsche Turbo for 25,000. You know, it's brand new. It's a 250 grand car. But I say, well, it's not available right now. But when I get it, well, that means nothing. You must have volume at a price for it to be meaningful. Someone must sell it at that price. So you can sell your precious metals. If you connect that Wise account with a bullion vault, it's the best solution. And I mean, this I'm giving away for free. I don't mind doing it. And if you choose to use the links in our YouTube, you'll even get recognized, I think, with $20 or whatever for opening the Wise account. But they're very good. And they're all over the world. I've just paid a Panamanian bill remotely. Even though I used a VPN to try pay with one of my Panamanian banks, it was, no, we're blocking it. We want to check, is it you? And all of that. Very, very good. But it's all done in the app, and it's all done this. And I can move excess. So say you have $1 million lying around, or 100,000, whatever the number is. You can say, well, in my next 3 months, I only really need to have access to 35,000 for monthly expenses. And I will send the rest to Bullion Vault and I'll buy silver and maybe some platinum and some gold as well. If you want, you can have it bolted in Singapore instead of anything in the West as one of the options. Sometimes the price is a bit more there, by the way. I think that tells you something, but anyway, that's just me. And you can then convert that 35K into Swiss franc and just have 5 grand or 10 grand in dollars because you're an American, or Canadian if you're a Canadian, and just deal with your short-term expenses. They're all losing ground to the franc a little bit as well. But you're not going to get rich just by holding francs, but the rest of it's in silver. That's just run and run and run. We were telling people at $25 that's the squeeze. It's the final move. The hell it's going to break out. And a dollar UST maximalist who's well known was saying, oh, look, the silver guys are going all headless about it, going above $25 again. And here we sit at 90. So your money's gone up 3.5 times in the year and a bit that happened. And at the same time, if you had francs, your short-term, medium-term cash flow for the quarter has actually not devalued as much as the dollar has during that period. And you can switch it back to dollars. It's done very low cost, as and when you need it. So you keep enough in fiat for 3 months or 6 months, depending how nervous you are about that. And anytime I can move money into the bullion vault, done at a couple of punch, I can buy on the grid the silver. And now I'm running a bit light on the Wise. It's a card. You can get a physical card, obviously, so you can tap and go and pay anywhere in the world all the time. And there's even crypto cards that do that as well. The only crypto at the moment that's interesting for us is Monero, but some will turn. The only things that are beating gold are silver and platinum miners, and maybe some gold miners, and that particular crypto that I mentioned called Monero. Some of the others will turn, but that isn't a good thing because they're all bringing the digital system, but at least get rich with it. Be a pragmatist. So I am sort of a happy man who enjoys every day of life, looking to buy as many days additional by virtue of being free and financially very well set.
Yes.
And be one of the few who keeps his house when, they spike the interest rates because I don't have mortgages on them. They're all purchased outright. I can't be shaken out. They'll eventually push property wealth taxes so high, I might have to sell 1 or 2. Okay, but I'll be disproportionately wealthy for just being able to hold on a lot longer and being in gold, silver, platinum, and miners. Watch the great taking. If you don't have certificates, be wary of that. I have call options and various other things. And that's how I'm playing this. I don't know how much more sole individuals can do. And they have a plan for all of us eventually, because they don't want us to be independent and sovereign. It's not in their interest. Absolute power dictates absolute servitude. The one goes without the other. And I'm sad to say that. And I wish these people weren't that way. But what can I do? What can I do about it as a sole man? I can try and inspire others to protect themselves and to understand how the world works. And then maybe there's a warrior in there who knows how to push back. I push back by bringing the D-Day of gold and silver going up. But at the same time, that makes banks go bust, and it accelerates when they introduce their new scheme. So the good news is good news on one side of the coin, and it's very bad news on the other. And the doomer news that I'm bringing you also brings opportunity on the other side. So, you've got to see this in the beautiful yin and yang of black half with white inner circle and white half with black inner circle. There's opportunity in everything. In crisis, there's the Chinese word, which is crisis. And it means two things. It means crisis and it means opportunity. So, there's huge opportunity. And the opportunity is that I've seen this for a long time coming, and I've been able to get wealthy and help other people to do the same and do a value add thing for them. And I plan to continue to do it. So I'm getting a reputation as the Messiah of silver and the Great Reset. I've even got AI bots copying our YouTubes now and releasing them. It's great. And I want the message to get out, and I want to scale it. And that's the gift YouTube gives us. Because in the same way I curse the likes of Google, YouTube, and Android, all owned by one company, no monopoly or antitrust activity. Just think about that. Two largest search engines, YouTube and Google. Android, the platform for the most proliferated phone, all in one company, no antitrust behavior. Even Rockefeller got his oil company bust up at some point into peace. It's insane to think
that's been
but anyway, I use the YouTube to get my message out. They might not be so happy. I have 2 strikes for medical misinformation for trying to save people's lives from something I thought was intrinsically dangerous, that they said was evil and wrong and misinformed. That's turned out to be probably quite good, quite accurate, and quite well informed. But anyway, they won't remove them, I suppose. If I make one more slip on another event, I'll disappear from the airwaves, and then that's me done, But
can I ask you, you referenced the Messiah of Silver. Speaking of messiahs, if you don't mind me asking, what faith drives all of this? Do you have a faith?
Well, the Christian principles that I were brought up on, the best of them, I think you must have a principle-based living. It's not about being on the winning side. The winning side, if I wanted to be on the winning side, I'd probably commit the heinous crimes I expect these guys that they do on camera, so that you're a blackmailable asset and that you can be given higher office and opportunity to inside trade and do all sorts of things. I've decided I'll do it the honest way. I'll do it utilizing my own head, my own skills, without doing damage to others. Do no harm, the non-aggression, help others, principle-based, that I would call broadly Christianity the best parts of it. Principle-based living. Don't choose the winning team. Choose the right team on principle. Who knows? Maybe the right team on principle wins in the end. I'm struggling to see it right now, but that doesn't change whose team I'm playing for.
I have a book to refer you to that talks about who's going to win if you're interested.
I don't know how anyone could know, but I'm looking at the signs and we're going down first. It could be, the 7 years before rapture. I know the Christian revelation narratives reasonably well without being an absolute expert. I just don't see anyone coming in chariots from the sky to save us. You are your own savior. God, one of my favorite sayings that involves any reference to God is God helps those who start to help themselves, at least in initial principle. So, work towards it. And I chose not only to help myself, but to scale helping myself to the point where I'm helping many. And what's amazing about that is one hand never washes the other without the other hand also getting washed. My audience have helped me back in many ways with their feedback, their communication, their intelligence from different lands, and they've helped me remain very informed. And I'm just going to keep playing the principle game because I want to die a man of principle, even if that means I die earlier for that. It's not, It's what you can be resolute and what you can hang your hat on. And that's how we run our business as well. If we're determined to give value add, we're determined to leave people better off for having touched with us in that influence when it comes to the end of their day. If they were ever asked, and how were these people for you in terms of your engagements, they raised me up as the only answer I want to hear in every way, in integrity, honesty, and light, and with sincerity. And he was passionate about what he did till the day he died. And if I can die on that, I've done okay. The evil guys that play crazy games, psychotic games, run everything. I don't know. You play psychotic games, you win psychotic, crazy prizes. I'm not in that contest.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to echo what you said there, and just thank you for your courage and your transparency. You truly are a gem in the financial world with what you bring to the table, your expertise, your willingness to share this information. For those that are new to you, please go check out Francis's YouTube channel. The amount of information that he shares there, and the the picks, if you want to call them that, the stock picks, or the the assets that you bring attention to, if people just followed your free content, they would be far better off than listening to see some CNBC thing or something like that. So I truly, genuinely appreciate you and the principle that you're standing on. So thank you for that. What assets are you looking at right now? What opportunities do you see that we haven't mentioned just yet?
So it's not about number. It's about staying the full course sometimes. And this is a very big cycle ending. I will have one or two other things that I'm okay with, happy to share, actually, not just okay. There's nothing about me that's lukewarm. But I would say the bigger lesson is to recognize what I was saying about silver, that this has not really even begun, even though it's already disproportionately enriched and in wealth our community. It's not even begun. I've told them all. The hardest thing is recognizing that you got to just sit. Sometimes the best trade is just sitting. Get in it and sit. There's certain things that have moved. Most people who've looked at this parabola on an unlogged scale chart of silver thought, why the hell can you even expect more? They don't understand the scale of the Ponzi scheme and the debasement, and the scale of generational suppression that is all unwinding. This, in essence, is one of the biggest trades of the millennium, in terms of positioning. And the worst thing to do is to be jumping in and out. And you'll then, if you find it hard to hold on, you're going to find it hard to buy back at 2.5 times more than when you last got out. And that throws you into a funk mentally. And then you get upset and you get aggressive, and then you try and make up for the fact that you missed some out. So you use a bit of leverage, then you get stopped out on a pullback, and you can turn it into a doom loop. I've actually lost money. I've a particular degree of incompetence. I've successfully lost money on the pound going from 174 to 193 at one stage. So I have made all the errors as well. And I recognize that, and I learned from that. And going only leverage long. But, I went out and I hadn't put the trade on. I came back and it moved, and I was angry. I put it on, and then I try to make up with it with bigger size. And then I had to go out again, and it dipped really hard, and it ran my stop. And then I was furious. I'd lost it. And then after it turned around and went back up, you can actually get psychologically out of shape. This is where that method of just set and forget. That's my entry level. That's my stop. That's my take profit. The only contract is I'm a man of principle, and I stand on the contract I've made with self. That means at that point it gets taken, the profit gets taken. And if the line runs there, and we even don't watch the chart half the time, don't cortisol and excessively dopamine yourself. Recognize that. And for those watching that think I'm a day trader, I'm conducting this interview on a laptop, and I received that outcome that I described of $7.5 million in that time frame, most of the time on a laptop in different countries. I don't have 9 screens. I'm not watching 15-minute charts. We've got community members that I put in one of my homes that are trade leaders and webinar producers, are real positive value add guys, because we bring good people. And so I give them more roles and more responsibility, and then they come and stay with us. They're friends. I'm entertaining them. I'm taking them on the drive I was mentioning. Live and love, and be in the moment and enjoy. You were given this opportunity to have an experience. and everyone's probably existing in the same script of experience. You can either fall apart and be that guy, or you can recognize there's an obstacle course to run. You can run it all by yourself and struggle, or you can get a team together and help each other over and do a squad or a little section unit right the way through, with the strong guys lifting up the ladies, the faster guys running to get to the totem pole first and grab the tag, and everybody contributes and we work in a team. And that's the best you can do. Community up, develop self-reliance. The less you rely on the state for anything, that goes from power, water. I'm solar paneled. I've got a well. I've got a reservoir, open natural water over here with herons and everything on it. I have filtration systems. I have everything. People think I'm living in South Africa. I'm living in a mud hut. I've got all of this. Grid can go down. I've got friends, firearms, shooting range, connections, people who can get things done. Sometimes a little bit like that when things are a little bit scary. It's the perfect place for it. You need connections and community. You need network. And I'm for all you guys achieving that. But I do fear, and I know all your friends are at home in America around you, and I know it sounds like I'm dooming on your country. I love Americans. I go there. It's a beautiful country. Everything, the Moab, oh yeah, just beautiful. I love it. But the sad fact is that the Trojan parasitic elements have got into the brain, and they are on a doom's course for really bringing hardship. And going to Colorado in a forest and trying to see it out in a log cabin, you're still in their legal jurisdiction. They can make what you do illegal. It's not about morality. They can do anything they want. They confiscated gold, from citizens. Let's not forget, in the name of the nation, in the better interests of the others, you can't be allowed. And so laws are whatever politicians agree to write up and vote through, sadly. Mm-hmm. And it isn't as based on Christianity, the cross you have around your chest. Sometimes it seems almost the inversion thereof. And I'm like, well, you've got to have options then. And that's where optionality helps you. And there's community, people who can tell you things. So there's a lot we can help people such as your viewers in that regard, but you've got to start first building the wealth. You will then have the resources to secure yourself multiple residencies in much more tax-friendly places. Smaller nations that don't have big armies, can't bully you so much, have to be friendly and kind that people choose to be resident there. And they say, we won't charge you on this, we won't charge you on that. It's a friendlier slave master who's just glad that someone's going to prepare to come and work on his farm a little bit. And you don't even have to be on the farm. You just have to be a resident. And then after a while, if you buy a property, it's for life. You don't even have to go and renew it every year. Well, that's my kind of country. He's not a bully. He's not aggressive. I'm not an alpha male. I'm a sigma male. I don't want to dominate others. The last thing I want is to dominate other people. I want people who are willingly wanting my message if they choose and if it suits only. And we screen our calls. It's not a sales call. We make sure we're not getting any loons and crazy guys with unnatural expectations as well. We have a 14-day money back. We want a community of the willing. I want people that are high level in the areas that I've discussed and of like mind. I don't want to be their boss and I don't want to be their servant. I want good, solid equals, friends amongst brotherhood, sisterhood. We've had an increase in ladies coming on board as well, by the way. So they are waking up, and it's a great delight to me too. So that's it. Community of the willing, and let's share and let's work and let's know who our common enemy is. And unfortunately, it's governments, dark states, private investigation or CIA stroke intelligence agencies that are actually farm managers of us as if we are their livestock. They aren't worried about the enemy and the external. They're worried about their rulers' ability to maintain power in a disorderly society where people are poor, hungry, and angry. And that's why it's going to get more totalitarian. And that's why we need our community.
So much. There's so much here. There's so many more questions that I have. I know we're out of time, but Francis, for those that are interested in following up with you and finding more about your community, where is the best place for them to go?
Sure. And we're very well supported by our amazing American community members. In fact, we have guys that do the onboarding that are US. You'll recognize friends that have people that have said the same thing. You'll suddenly cease to be gaslit. Sometimes the psyop of being gaslit about what's really going on, just getting the relief from that is enough and is worth the money alone, you know. And sometimes really, because you have to live and operate in a business environment and a commercial environment and a family environment, but other people just don't see what you see. And I'm here to say, don't worry, you're not alone. The best places to engage with us is YouTube. Lots of links to book a call. We recently did one where, as I say, I showed the receipts in terms of the trading performance. I showed one platform. I did the same thing on 5 different platforms. I don't affiliate a broker unless I'm happy to use them myself. So every single one I use, otherwise I won't affiliate. If there's anything oily about them, I say me and my community are leaving if you don't fix that. We've never had problems. And if they do, they'll lose a lot of people. So we work collectively on that. The market sniper is all things silver, precious metals. If you do follow and recognize that certain cryptos, status ones that you won't marry and love, but will give you wealth potentially in their move, if you are interested in that, the crypto sniper as well. That saw us benefit from a huge surge in Monero, which we actually gave away for free on our Crypto Sniper channel, by the way, as we have done for a lot in silver. But you get in earlier, you get better served, you get all the tricks you learn the HVF method, and you get the bigger multiple by being sooner, faster, and better served on all those things. Which miners we've chosen, it's all covered in the community. Regular updates. I did an ad hoc update today for a specific reason. So we are always engaging voicemails, chart shares, and everybody understands what it means. Lots of different forums to engage with different people. But first, watch the YouTube channel. Decide if I'm your guy. There's no harm. It costs you nothing. There's a free mini series on HVF. We never sell the list. You'll never get an advert because of me. You can watch that every day. You get a video for, I think, 6 days. A little bit more explanation so you can find out more what we're about. And that's it. The 2 YouTube channels. I'm also on X. I'm worried about, I don't want to say too much anymore about who I think are the bad guys and get into trouble up there. So I'm slowly retracing, but I often remind people of a YouTube and share a quick chart on X under the same name, the Market Sniper, the Crypto Sniper, as with the YouTube. So thank you for being patient with me today, by the way. We changed background because of a battery on a laptop, by the way, if somebody's wondering. And you too are doing God's work, and I want to thank you for that. More people doing that, which you do, is absolutely awesome. And I hope you get the likes, the comments, and the engagement that you deserve for the work that you are doing. And I thank you for it, truly.
Thank you, Francis. One of the things that I hope is my expertise is finding the truth, finding the people who are speaking the truth in the different realms that we're looking at, whether it's financial or health or spiritual, et cetera. And I'm very confident that you are probably the top guy in my network of who understands what's going on, who has the expertise to guide, who has the right heart, the humility, the principle that you've mentioned. You had said at one point in one of your videos that you've seen this coming for a long time, and you've built yourself and your organization to be the right, to be the lantern, to hold up the lantern when things are starting to get dark. And we're at dusk, and it's going to get very, very dark soon, I believe. And thank God for you. I really appreciate what you're doing and the message that you're sharing. Again, you share stuff for free that has benefited myself and many others. I am, full disclosure, in your community. I'm relatively new to it. I'm going through the training right now, so I'm getting up to speed on all of that. But anyway, thank you again. I will say one last thing before we go. Your metaphors are unmatched. I'm going to start calling you the metaphor sniper as well, because you have some of the best metaphors, which really, for my brain, it starts to click in ways that I don't get when I'm just looking at numbers and data, et cetera. So I appreciate your teaching methodology.
You said holding up the lantern. That was a beautiful phrase. You're learning too. That was, I thought, what a lovely image that held. And I was really proud and happy about that. And congratulations. And thank you for supporting us and joining the community. I wish I'd known before we were speaking. We have a fair number of people. It's difficult to know everybody, but I'm glad. And I hope your experience on onboarding was exactly what you would have expected. And that so far, we are turning out to be exactly who we claim to be.
It absolutely is. Yes. So thank you again, Francis. Such a tremendous conversation. I hope to have you on again soon. I'd love to know more about Monero. I don't know enough about that. So perhaps we can do that sometime in the relative near future.
Absolutely. And as a community member, I will be looking to support you even further in your channel development. So please stay in touch and remember, use the booking link again, and we can do this again in a month or so's time.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
All the best. Bye-bye.